People in the valley used to laugh at him, not because he was cruel, not because he was strange, but because to them he looked useless. While others rushed through life like they were being chased, he moved slowly. While others argued, he listened. While others fought the world, he seemed to let the world pass through him. His name was Shen, and the villagers called him the man who did nothing. Every morning, Shen sat by the river bank. He didn't farm much. He didn't bargain in the market. He didn't chase titles. He watched the water. He watched the reeds bend when the wind came. He watched how fallen branches drifted, stopped, and found their place. And sometimes he would smile, like the river had told him a secret. One day, a young man named Wu Wei approached him. Wu Wei was bright, ambitious, restless. He had the kind of energy that made him feel guilty when he sat still. He said, "Uncle Shen, why do you waste your life here?" Shen didn't answer immediately. He dipped his fingers into the river and lifted them back out. Water fell from his hand without resistance. He asked, "Tell me, Wu Wei, do you want to control your life?" Wu Wei said, "Of course." Shen nodded. "Then you will suffer." Wu Wei frowned. "What kind of answer is that?" Shen looked at the river. "Because control," he said softly, "is usually just fear wearing armor." Wu Wei wanted to argue, but before he could, a shout came from the village, then another, then dozens. A bell began to ring, not the calm bell of prayer, the harsh bell of warning. Wu Wei turned and saw people running toward the river with ropes and tools. Dark clouds rolled down the mountains like a heavy blanket, and the river was rising. The valley had seen floods before, but this one felt different. The water wasn't just higher, it was angry. It carried tree trunks, it carried stones. It sounded like something alive that had lost patience. The village leader ordered men to build a barrier. "Stack the stones," he shouted. "Build the wall higher." The strongest men rushed forward. They dragged rocks from the river edge. They drove stakes into the mud. They tied ropes until their palms burned. Faces tense with heroism, hearts loud with panic. Wu Wei joined them. He pulled and strained and shouted like everyone else. And Shen? Shen remained on the river peg, watching, doing nothing. Someone screamed at him. "Old man, don't just stand there. Help!" Shen only asked calmly, "Where will the water go?" No one answered.
They didn't have time for questions. They were too busy fighting. By sunset, the barrier stood tall. The villagers looked at it like it was a victory. They exhaled. They told each other, "We did it." Then the river tested them. The flood struck the wall. Not gently, not slowly. It hit like a shoulder check from a giant. Water slammed into stone. Stone shifted. Mud loosened. The barrier held for a moment, and then the river did what rivers do. It found the weakness. A single crack opened near the base. That crack became a mouth, and the mouth became a roar. The wall collapsed. Water rushed through the village like it had been waiting. People screamed. Animals broke loose. Lanterns went out. The ground disappeared beneath their feet. In the chaos, Wu Wei stumbled and fell into the current. Cold water swallowed him. His arms flailed. The river pulled him as easily as it pulled leaves. He tried to fight it. He kicked hard. He clawed at the surface. But the water felt heavy, like wet concrete. Every time he kicked against it, the river simply swallowed his energy and pulled him deeper. Then, through the blur of panic, he saw a hand, not grabbing with violence, not yanking, just present. Shen, standing in shallow water, steady as a stone, holding a long branch out like a bridge. Wu Wei reached. Shen didn't pull him like a hero. He simply held firm, and the river carried Wu Wei into his grip. Shen guided him to higher ground. Wei lay on the mud, coughing, shaking, humiliated. He looked up at Shen like he was seeing him for the first time. "Why didn't you help build the wall?" Wei gasped. Shen looked at the destroyed barrier, stones scattered like broken teeth. Then he said quietly, "Because the river does not negotiate." Wei stared, confused. Shen continued, "You cannot stop it with pride. You cannot command it with force. You must give it a way to go." The next morning, the storm weakened. The river was still high, but its rage had softened. The villagers gathered, exhausted and ashamed. Their wall was gone. Their confidence was gone. The leader looked at Shen and said bitterly, "So what would you have done, wise man?" Shen didn't insult them. He didn't say, "I told you so." He walked along the river's edge and pointed at the land. He pointed at a shallow ditch from years ago. He pointed at a low field that could flood without destroying homes. He pointed at a curve where the river naturally wanted to turn. Then he said, "Not a wall, a channel, a path." The villagers hesitated because a wall feels like power, a channel feels like surrender. But they had already tried power, so they followed Shen. They dug a new route, small at first. They widened the ditch. They cleared debris. They placed stones not as a barrier, but as guidance, like fingers redirecting a stream. No shouting, no heroic speeches, just quiet work. And then the river came again. It rose, it pushed, it searched. But this time the water did not hit the stones like an enemy. It met them like a suggestion. It turned because it was easier to turn than to fight. When it reached the widened ditch, it flowed into it. When it reached the low field, it spread there harmlessly, like an animal finally given space to breathe. The village did not defeat the river, but the village survived. And slowly the water lowered. When it was over, the villagers stood in silence. The leader looked at Shen and asked, almost whispering, "What do you call this?" Shen brushed mud from his sleeve. He said, "Wu Wei," he said. Wei frowned. "Doing nothing?" Shen shook his head. "Not nothing, not forced. Wu Wei is action without violence. It is effort without struggle. It is the kind of movement that matches the world instead of fighting it." Wei looked at the river, now calm, sliding past like it had never been angry. He thought about the wall they built with pride, how it collapsed, how the river didn't hate them, it simply moved. Then he looked at the channel they dug. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't impressive, but it worked. And in that moment, Wei understood something most people never learn. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop forcing, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. That night, Wei returned to the riverbank with Shen. The sky was clear again. The reeds bent gently in the wind. Wei asked, "So, how do I use Wu Wei in my life?" Shen smiled slightly. "First, notice where you are fighting a river." Wei waited. Shen continued. "Some people fight time. Some people fight other people's opinions. Some people fight the past. Some people fight their own nature." He paused. "And now we fight modern things, too. We fight traffic. We fight algorithms. We fight silence. We act like the world is something to be conquered rather than something to be lived." He touched the ground lightly with his foot. "Find the direction life already wants to move," he said, "and then help it. A small stone placed well can redirect a flood." Wei lowered his gaze. He remembered the moment in the water, how fighting made him sink, how stillness gave him just enough space to be saved. And finally he understood why Shen had seemed so calm all those years.
He wasn't lazy. He wasn't useless. He wasn't doing nothing. He was listening. He was aligning. So, if your life feels heavy right now, if everything feels like resistance, ask yourself gently, am I building a wall when I should be making a channel? Because Wu Wei is not the art of giving up. It is the art of stopping the unnecessary lure. And when you stop fighting what cannot be controlled, you suddenly have strength for what can.